All right, well, it's 5 o'clock Central, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining today's meeting on AAN resources. All participants are currently muted, but feel free to turn on your camera if you're comfortable doing so. For questions, please enter your questions into the chat function, and we will go ahead and answer questions at the end of the presentation. I'm pleased to introduce our speakers for today, Dr. Christy Suarez and Dr. Nara Michelson. Dr. Christy Suarez is a PGY1 neurology resident at Emory Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia. She has been involved with AAN since her first year of medical school and has received multiple awards and scholarships through the AAN, including this year's Medical Student Prize for Excellence Award and Futures in Neurologic Research Scholarship. Additionally, she serves on the AAN's Pipeline Subcommittee and EDI work group. She's passionate about mentorship and medical robotics. We also have Dr. Nara Michelson, and she is a PGY4 neurology resident at New York Presbyterian Weill Cornell and a member of the Residents and Fellows section of the Neurology Editorial Board. Fun fact about Dr. Michelson is that she writes poetry and narrative medicine pieces. So now, Dr. Suarez, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Leslie. That was awesome. All right, well, thank you guys so much for being here today. We're so excited to talk to you. I have benefited so much from the American Academy of Neurology, and so just hoping to kind of, relay what I have learned and the resources that I've taken advantage of to you guys so that you guys can find your passion in neurology and continue to utilize all the resources that they have for us. So this is just a little bit of the agenda, what we're going to go over. We're going to save questions for the end, but we do have a good chunk of time that we'll dedicate to questions. So make sure you can put them in the chat if you have a burning question, but then we'll also have time at the end. All right, so the first thing we want to do is see who's actually on the call. So there was like 100 plus people registered for the event. Looks like not quite that many have made it yet, but we're going to go ahead and open the poll to see where you are in your training. If you're a resident, a medical student, undergraduate, if you're in med school, so that we can kind of tailor some of our information so it'll help you guys the most. All right, very cool. Also, shout out to one of my co-residents. It's on the call right now. What's up, Brianna? All right, we'll give it just a couple more seconds. So people that are just getting on the call, we're doing on a poll about where you are in your training. All right.
Dr. Suarez?
Hi.
All right. Hi, Jesus Hernandez here. Very nice to meet you. I have a question. If we are applying for the match this year, but we are IMGs, in which field do you recommend us to select?
So I do not have much experience with that. So maybe we can table that question till the end, and there might be somebody on the call that would be better suited to answer that question. But thank you so much for your question.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, so I'll go ahead and end this poll. So it looks like most people are MS4s, but we do have a couple of undergraduate students and some other med students. All right. Can we go to the next slide, Leslie? All right, so first of all, what is the American Academy of Neurology? So it's the world's largest professional association of neurologists. We have 38,000 plus members with over 200 staff. They're located in Minnesota, so that's what Leslie does. That's where she works. There's, like me, 6,800 in member volunteers, and we have a 94% retention rate. We also have a large population of APPs as well. So that's just a little bit about what is actually the American Academy of Neurology. And what does it mean to be a member? Next slide, please. So this is just a breakdown of members. So I'm so happy to see that there's so many medical students on the call because I think medical students are an integral part of the American Academy of Neurology. It says that only 15% of the American Academy of Neurology is made up of med students, but I want us, to increase that number because membership is free. And so we're going to go over that right now, actually. Next slide, please. Thank you. So to become a member, it takes less than 10 minutes. We're going to send this PowerPoint out at the end, but you can also Google become a member, American Academy of Neurology, and I linked it right there in the slide for you guys. But it's free for students. It's free for residents, especially as interns. And there's so many tools and resources that the American Academy of Neurology has that you can be involved with as soon as you become a member. So that's really what we're going to go over today. Next slide. So first of all, let's get connected as well. So this is after you become a member, you can go on to the American Academy of Neurology's website. And I've linked here what it looks like when you go onto the site. So you can see that there's some tabs up at the top. And if you go to membership, you can go down to Synapse. So Synapse is the American Academy of Neurology's digestion, that's not digestion is not the right word, but it's what we use to contact each other. And there's different boards that you can get connected with people. So if you're interested in neuro-oncology or neurovascular or EDI is what you're interested in, you can get connected through Synapse, and then you can be part of those different discussion boards. That's what I was looking for, sorry. And then also make sure that you follow the American Academy of Neurology on Twitter and Instagram. So there's tons of updates that come out on social media. And then that Synapse app that we were just talking about through the website, you can also download it on your phone so you can see the discussion boards there as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we just kind of went over the social media. We also ask that you guys use certain hashtags like neurology, future neurologist, the Neuro Twitter network, because that will help you guys to get connected. I actually, have met a lot of my colleagues through Twitter. I cannot recommend being on Twitter enough to any trainee or any resident, any undergraduate students. So that's your next step. All right, next slide, please. So awards and scholarship. This is something I'm also really passionate about. So I got involved with the American Academy of Neurology in my first year of med school. And I kind of knew that I was interested in being a neurologist, but I didn't know, wasn't 100% sure that that's what I was going to do. And so I looked up if there was any, meetings or anything, and I came upon these awards, and they have amazing travel scholarships for undergraduate students and medical students, and even some residents scholarships as well, that they will actually pay for you to go to the meeting, and they'll pay for your flight, they'll pay for your hotel. And it's a great way to meet people. So I have benefited. My first year, I received a travel scholarship. Then the pandemic hit. So that was in Philadelphia, and then we didn't have a meeting the next year. But this past year, I was really lucky to receive the Futures in Neurologic Research scholarship, and they also, paid for me to go. There was programming specific for me for research interest. There was an amazing research boot camp. And if you go to the American Academy of Neurology's annual meeting, which happens each year, we're going to go through the meetings that we have as well. They have dedicated tracks for if you're a medical student or a resident that are specific to you. So it's not just like the most intelligent minds, which it is, talking above you. There's also sessions that would be perfect for you to learn about what it means to be a good resident, how to use Twitter, kind of updates on different things that maybe you haven't learned about, and a great way to connect. So I would absolutely recommend to anybody to look up those awards and scholarships. There's also awards that you can nominate people for. So if you have a clerkship director that you really loved in neurology, or an attending who was a great teacher, I would absolutely recommend that you go look at those awards too and nominate those people so that they get recognized for the work that they're doing as well. And it's just a nice, nice little thing to be able to do as well. AAN also has a ton of research programs as well. For undergraduate students, they have a specific scholarship where if you have a mentor and an idea, they will help to sponsor your project. So that is, money that the American Academy of Neurology is going to give you to follow your research interest, which I feel like money can be a barrier for a lot of people. And you have that opportunity right there. So like I said, we're going to send this PowerPoint out afterwards that are going to have these links to those pages, but you can also just Google AAN Awards and Scholarships, Research Scholarships as well. Next slide, please. So conferences, this is a huge thing that the American Academy of Neurology does. So here we have some highlighted dates. The next annual meeting is in Boston, which is April 22nd to 28th. So I personally will be there. I hope to see you guys there. It is a great week. There's, I've met a lot of my mentors there. I definitely, that's like, it's just such a fun place. Everybody is so friendly. And it's a great week of learning. So I would definitely recommend if you're near Boston, that you go check it out. The year after that will be in Denver, Colorado. So if you're on the other side of the country, or maybe that's a little bit closer, that's a good option as well. And then these are the other places that they're going to be in the next couple of years. So San Diego and Chicago. But if you can't wait until next April, there are other meetings. So we have a summer conference coming up in just a couple weeks, actually, in San Francisco, July 15th to 16th. It's a little bit smaller, and they are focused on certain topics. So Dr. Nara, we haven't, Dr. Michelson, we haven't talked about this yet, but she's going into MS. And so this year's topic is autoimmune neurology and neurology year in review. So there would be a great place if you're interested in autoimmune neurology, or you just want to learn a little bit more about it, a great place to be. And they accept abstracts and research. So if you want to go and, present your research, that's also a great opportunity. Next slide. We also have some fall conferences. So this year's is in Las Vegas. This is just it's a little bit closer to the size of the summer conference, not quite as big as the annual meeting that's going to be happening in Boston. But the fall conference is also another great opportunity if you can't quite make the deadline of July, but you want to, go meet some neurologists and get some mentorship as well. Next slide, please. So publications, this is a huge part of the American Academy of Neurology and a huge resource that they have. So the Brain and Life, I just want to highlight the Brain and Life publication that the American Academy of Neurology has. It's free, so you can go online, you can subscribe to it, you can get it in English, you can also get it in Spanish, and they will send it straight to your front door for nothing. There's amazing articles in there. They always have someone famous on the cover, which I think is really fun. And then there's some other publications that maybe Dr. Michelson will talk about a little bit later, but I specifically also wanted to highlight Continuum. So Continuum is a place I personally love to use it. You do have to pay for it, but a lot of institutions will pay for their residents to have it, where you can just get a quick, very digestible update and kind of summary of a condition. And it's incredibly helpful. They also have, Dr. Michelson will talk about this a little bit later, but the residents and fellow section has a great blog called Equilibrium that's free that I would absolutely recommend that you guys check out as well. Next slide. Advocacy. So the American Academy of Neurology has a lot of different advocacy programs. So I've been waiting to participate in Neurology on the Hill for 4 years now. You can be a part of Neurology on the Hill starting as a resident. So sorry to the medical students that are on the call, but this will be something to look forward to. So every year Neurology on the Hill meets in DC, and they go and they speak to our representatives from, each neurologist. They meet with their state representatives, and they get to talk about the issues that are important to us. Because as you guys have kind of seen, over the last couple of years, it's really important that our laws reflect what our clinical practice needs to be. And so that's a really important week. And I would absolutely recommend that if advocacy is something that's important to you, that this is a program that you kind of keep your eyes on and participate in. Very excited that I finally have reached the point where I can get involved. And then Palatucci. So Palatucci, you have to have graduated from residency and have practiced for X amount of years. I think it's like 7, but I'm not 100% sure about that. But that's a leadership program that the American Academy of Neurology has. And it's an advocacy and a leadership forum. Next slide, please. So there wasn't a slide on this, but I also want to just talk about, there are some leadership programs for residents. So there is a emerging leadership program that the American Academy has, and that you can apply for in your PGY 3 year. So there are some leadership opportunities for some of the people that might be on the call as well. So then the online learning portion of the AAN. So the AAN has amazing apps, and they have a podcast that you can, listen to. There's something called Neurobites that has, very digestible clips where you can learn about a certain topic. I definitely, if you guys have your phones, I would recommend downloading the Neurology Question of the Day app. So it's one question per day that has links to where the literature came from. And it's really cool to actually click on the links, because sometimes it's people that neurologists that but it just kind of tests your knowledge, and you can see what other people are answering. There's a leaderboard. I'm not on the leaderboard, but maybe one day. And then, as I said, there's the podcast. So there's a ton of different online learning options that the American Academy of Neurology has. So those are just a few of them there. There's also mentorship through some of these apps that I would recommend. Leslie's email will be available at the end of this. So if you guys are interested in getting involved with American Academy of Neurology or mentorship, I would recommend writing down her email and sending an email to her, and we'll follow up with you after this as well. So
Hey,
this is
Christy,
something yes, sir.
do you mind if I just make one comment on the last slide?
That would be amazing. This is Dr. Stroud, one of my mentors.
Hey, everyone.
Amazing neurologist.
Well, glad to be on here. I'm Roy Stroud. I'm a neurologist at Wake Forest, and I'm also the chair of the e-learning subcommittee. We do a lot. If you go to the last slide there, Leslie, we do a lot of these online learning pieces. And I just want to highlight two things that Christy mentioned. One is the Neurobites. And there's a lot of medical students on. We saw that at the beginning. So there is a medical school, a medical student Neurobites series that's in development. And a couple of the bites, at least one of the medical student Neurobites is out. If you just Google search medical student Neurobites, AAN, it will come up. And that's a series of Neurobites. These are short, less than 3-minute videos on critical topics that particularly 3rd year and 4th year students should learn about neurology, and it's geared towards medical students. So that's something to know about. And then, as Christy was just mentioning, for mentorship, the Question of the Day app is a question of the day. So it's really cool. It's fun. I do it every day. It's great. There's also a mentorship component within the app. So you can ping a neurologist and their profile is on there. They kind of let you know what area of interest they have in terms of subspecialty and those sorts of things. And I've connected with a ton of students who are like, well, hey, what's neuro-oncology? I'm a neuro-oncologist, and how do you get involved, and what's it all about, and ask some questions and those sorts of things. It's good for individual mentoring questions, not kind of career longitudinal mentoring, but hey, I'm applying, I have this question about my personal statement, or hey, I'm interested in this, ask a question about it. So something I would definitely encourage you to check out. I think it's a great way to connect with neurologists.
Yeah, I really like Continuum Audio. Like, I'm a audio kind of learner. And in addition to the podcast, like you highlighted, Continuum Audio is just a fantastic thing to listen to. You can put it into your schedule, even a busy like medical student or resident, you can be listening while you're like doing other things. So definitely like that. And then the NeuroSay is also really good for like self-assessment exams. I think that's really helpful for residency.
Thank you. So, just along the lines of that is the AAN has a bunch of different resources for board prep. And so I haven't quite experienced this yet as I'm in my 1st year of residency. But, it's something that's going to be coming up, and not in our PGY 1 year, but in PGY 2 year, we start to take what's called the RITE exam. And so I think on the next page, we talk about the RITE exam, and actually maybe not. There is, but like that last slide was saying, there are some board prep options. And like Dr. Michelson was just talking about, those Continuum articles are a great way to study for boards as well, and the self-assessment. Do you have anything to add about the board? Have you used any of the board prep tools, Dr. Michelson?
I haven't used the Neuro-Ready. I think that was what it was called. I use a lot of there's a question book that's really helpful, like Comprehensive Review in Clinical Neurology. Like, everyone goes through these questions. I don't know if you can see this, but and then I do I do all the continuum, and there's a lot of like practice questions of old write exams that are helpful, and a lot of image books where you have to like recognize the imaging, like they'll show you some anatomy, neuroanatomy, or some MRIs, those kinds of things. And then there's like a few other resources, but yeah, and the neurosay is helpful too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Dr.
So-
Soares, may I say something?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lanswarren. I work with the Resident Fellow Section Editorial Board, particularly for those of you who are familiar, I run the Mentored Review Program. And just on the comment of resources, one of the things I think is really amazing about the AAN, like educational resources, is that they're available. All of the resources are good at any level, but they're available really in different size formats. So depending on how you like to learn, so the continuum audio was great when I was a resident. The only time I had was like on my commute. And then there are formal multiple choice questions, which very much mimic the write and your boards. And like I would set aside 2 hours on a weekend afternoon to formally sit down and do those as a self-assessment. And then there are courses. So you can, if you are on a rotation or wherever you are in your training, even me out of rotation, it's been a while since I brushed up on that. And you can like learn about it. And then there are assessment questions at the end. And so I think the piece of advice that I would give people is don't try and do everything. That's not effective or efficient. Think about how you learn best, and then spend time seeing which tool fits best with your learning style, and then utilize that tool across the different content areas, and be aware that which tool is best for you may change based on your stage of training. Thank you.
Thank you. And you just actually reminded me, Dr. Lanswarren, I am also, have spoke with you via email, but have been able to take some opportunities with the residents and fellow sections. They have their own mentorship program. I, don't have much experience at all in peer reviewing, and have, gotten to take part in this amazing mentorship program. So that's another mentorship program that you guys can all apply to as well, if peer reviewing is something that you're interested in. And then I didn't mention, but at the conferences, at the in-person conference, the one that's going to be in Boston, we also have in-person mentorship. So if you end up in Boston and you're, just want a quick mentorship, I think they're hour-long sessions, and you can connect with the neurologist. If you guys hit it off, then you can keep it up afterwards. But there's so many mentorships as opportunities, as Dr. Stroud was saying, even in that question of the day app as well. So, what Dr. Lanswarren was saying is you can't do everything, but the American Academy of Neurology does have everything. So if you just start with one thing that maybe you're interested in, if that's, looking at the continuum articles or looking at that kind of stuff, or if you want to get involved, you want to mentor, there's many avenues that you can, kind of go through the website and find for those different things. I think we're going to talk about COVID-19 and wellness next. So the American Academy of Neurology has an amazing COVID-19 resource center. And so, this also has to do with our wellness resources that are for residents and medical students. So after you become a member, you'll have that, it was kind of shown in like one of the first slides, that upper tab section. There is a tab that's completely about COVID-19 and wellness. And so I would absolutely recommend that you guys all go check that out. Look at, the research, the guidance, the advocacy updates that they have. It's very comprehensive and a very good digestible resource for everyone in medical school, undergraduate, residents, even attendings. So next slide, please. Next slide. So this is something I personally have not gotten to take part of yet, but I'm very excited about it, is our virtual resident education lecture series. I don't know, have you gotten on any of them, Dr. Michelson? They're 1 hour long talks, and they're free. So it's monthly on Thursdays from 11 to 12 p.m. Central Time. And it's Zoom, they're recorded. You can go watch them all on the YouTube channel as well. So if you can't, I know there's a very specific time. If you can't join live, then there are recorded ones that are already on the YouTube channel. And like I said earlier, this will be sent out to you guys afterwards. So you can kind of click on those links and see exactly, what we're talking about. Okay, so this is one of my favorite things that the American Academy of Neurology does, which is trivia night. So our next trivia night is Thursday, July 19th at 7:30. It gets really competitive. Our residency program, hosts a night where we all get together and we get to eat and do trivia together. Even if you don't have a team, it's a fun thing to kind of just log on and be a part of. So do you guys have any fun traditions, Dr. Michelson, where you guys play trivia together? Or
we haven't been doing that recently, but that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I would, even if you guys aren't in residency, even as undergraduate students or medical students, it's just a great way to kind of get connected with people. And it truly is a fun evening. So this is just another, some more webinar series that we do have as well. So this is kind of more, post-residency, which I'm not sure there's much people that are on the call into that. But if you're interested in learning about the kind of business side of, being a doctor, which is important, there's also some, webinars that are free for you guys to watch as well. Next slide, please. So then this is also kind of in that second, part of training. So towards the end of residency, everyone will have to find a job if you're not going to fellowship. And so that is a great resource that the American Academy of Neurology has. So you can actively go on there, search jobs. There's job postings, and it's all in one specific section on the American Academy of Neurology's website. So this is kind of what we were just talking about, is the residency in-service training exam. So this is an exam that's kind of like a practice boards that you take during your PGY 2, 3, and 4 years of residency. And then I'm not sure what it is for Peds Neuro, if it's the same.
I think it's the same.
Okay. Yeah. So we kind of already talked about this, but there are, great self-assessments that the American Academy of Neurology has on their websites as well. To kind of practice for this exam. And it's supposed to be, moving towards getting us ready for our boards. So there's more curriculum as well that the American Academy of Neurology has, as documented here, the psychiatry curriculum for neurology residents, which is an important part of neurology, and then sleep medicine curriculum for neurology residents. So it's just more, online curriculum that the American Academy of Neurology has on their website. Next slide. So we kind of already talked about some of the leadership programs. So, we already kind of highlighted that the one that would be more for us would be the one that's our PGY 3 year, is the Emerging Leaders program. But they also have a diversity leadership program as well that I would encourage everyone to check out. Next slide. So this is the Enhanced Resident Leadership program. So this is a CME programming that's done at the annual meeting. So I, kind of met some people that were involved in this year, but I think that this is also part of, you have to be in your PGY 3 year as well. I'm not sure if Dr. Michelson, or I see Aaron's on this call as well, if you guys know a little bit more about the Enhanced Residency Leadership Program, but I believe that is towards the end of your residency that you're able to apply for that. But it's specific programming that's done at the American Academy of Neurology and their leadership curriculum at the actual meeting. Okay, next slide. So volunteer opportunities. I think this is kind of, might be what a lot of people on the call are interested in. So there's a ton of volunteer opportunities that are available at the American Academy of Neurology. So I specifically serve on the pipeline subcommittee. So I have a vested interest in mentorship and have been so lucky to be a part of mentorship through the American Academy of Neurology to middle school students, high school students, undergraduate students, and now we'll be moving on to, helping with medical students and other residents. So if you're interested in being on a committee or a section, another work group that I'm involved in is the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion subgroup that the American Academy of Neurology has. We have specific ones for, the education committee and, working on what the actual programming at the AAN is going to be. The committees and subsections that the American Academy of Neurology has are vast. And if there's something that you're interested in, chances are that there's a subgroup or a committee that's working on that specifically. And so if you're interested in any of those spots, I don't know if it's the next slide, but Leslie and Lucy's contact information are going to be on one of the slides coming up here. And I would recommend you writing down those emails. And if you're interested, just kind of send them an email about who you are and what your specific your interests are. Or maybe if you're just, want to get more involved, you can write that as well, that you're open to helping in any capacity as well, which is kind of where I was at. I knew I loved mentorship, and they kind of, placed me where I was meant to be. So next slide.
Okay. Great. So I'll talk a little bit about the resident fellows section. So this is a section that's devoted to residents and fellows. It's a group of people who are selected through an application process. So first, in your end of PGY 2-year, you're nominated by your program director for this position to be on the editorial board to help with peer reviewing manuscripts that come into the Green Journal, the Neurology Journal, specifically the section devoted to residents and fellows, which is separate from the rest of the main journal, but it all gets PubMed indexed as the rest of the manuscripts. And so it's quite a competitive process. It's international. So we actually have members all throughout the world. And my year, there's 7 of us. And it's been so fun being part of monthly meetings and getting to share my ideas for ways I think I can contribute to neurology and ways we can continue to advance the field. And, I also share Dr. Suarez's passion for mentoring and providing opportunities to everyone, all the rest of people like you. So we're working on some projects and we'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So you can move on to the next slide, please.
Hey, Nira, can I make one comment there?
Yes, please.
So, residents and fellows, it's a great name, but it's a little bit of a misnomer. So even though the resident and fellows section is sort of run by residents and fellows, those are who are on the editorial board, it is very much the student, resident, and fellows section. And so there are tons of great opportunities for students to get involved. And Nira's going to talk about all those. But when you see residents and fellows, you're just going to see students, residents, and fellows, because this section has a lot of outlets and opportunities and sort of ways to engage as a student for those who are students. Thanks, Nira.
Yes. As a medical student, I was, lucky enough to write a blog post for Equilibrium, which is part of the residents and fellows section. So if you like to write or anything, there's a place for you there. So definitely check out, all of the different resources that they have and the blogs and everything. Because if you like to write, this is a great place to be. If you don't know how to write, this is also a great place for you to be because there's mentorship there. So want to put that plug. As a medical student, I was able to be involved in this. So,
all right. We can go on to the next slide. Okay, well, so that's a perfect segue to actually some of the kind of directions we wanted to mention. So you mentioned the Equilibrium blog. We've also been talking a lot at our RFS meetings about specifically creating a blog section for medical students interested in neurology. We were thinking of first working closely with the SIGN members. So SIGN, for those of you who don't know, is Student Interest Group in Neurology. So anybody at any medical school can join a SIGN group, or even you can start a SIGN group. I founded one at my medical school, and you get funding again from the AAN, and you get to be part of a group and hold events and explore your interest in neurology in this way. And so what I'm working on with another RFS member, Dr. Galina Gaiman, she's at Harvard. We're working together to create more collaborations between specifically the SIGN groups and RFS, the rest of AAN. So eventually we'll open it up to all medical students, but we thought it was nice to first start with the motivated medical student sign members. And so basically, we were thinking of starting a separate blog, also on the same page where Equilibrium is kind of hosted, but to focus on sign members and to have them highlight kind of the events that they're putting on and ways that they're exploring neurology. And so that we can kind of start to give a voice to medical students and start to welcome them more in a more official way to the rest of AAN, because like Dr. Stroud was saying, it's students, residents, and fellows. So we want to make students especially more and more a part of our society, our neurology group. And so starting off with the blog, I think would be a good way to start to integrate more. And then we definitely are talking about ways to do some like small mentoring projects, like perhaps a medical student can help a RFS member write a mentored blog about a new paper that just came out in the resident fellow section. And these are all really important skills to start to get exposed to early on, so that when you're a resident, you can hit the ground running and you can really start to already be familiar with the editorial process, and then just already have a set of skills to continue to hone in residency and beyond. So we're excited about that. We're kind of calling this endeavor signposts. So it'd be like signposts from sign groups. And so that's one of many, many different ideas. So.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michelson. So we're going to open it up for anybody that has questions. I'm also going to just put my email address in the chat. If you guys have any questions after the meeting, I'm happy to answer those questions. You can follow me on Twitter, direct message me, whichever way is easiest for you guys to get into contact with me. I am super passionate about mentorship. So if you have any questions, or you're looking, maybe you haven't figured out if neurology is the right specialty for you, I would love to, kind of go through that thought process. And I saw a lot of you guys were medical students. If that's something you're questioning, or you're, having trouble navigating the match season, or what ERAS is, or what the, VSAS and VSLO and all of these, acronyms, we all only go through this once. And, but that doesn't mean that you don't, have somebody there that's already been through it. So there's tons of people that want to be your mentor at the American Academy of Neurology, but this was all about getting you guys into contact with those people and those resources. So I definitely want to just, let you guys know, if you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And so I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat. You can follow me on Twitter, and whatever way is easiest for you guys to get into contact with. So at that, I guess we'll open it up for questions if nobody has any other things they want to say. And you can, unmute yourself, or you can put them in the chat, whatever is most comfortable.
Yeah, and I'm happy also to share my email and Twitter, whichever way people want to reach out.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. First of all, thank you very much to all, Dr. Suarez, Dr. Michelson, Dr. Lyons, Dr. Stroud. Let me know if I pronounce it well. I am Jesus Hernandez, and I am doing research in movement disorders at University of Cincinnati. And recently, precisely, we had a meeting with the program director of UCLA, program of neurology, and he introduced this very interesting AAN on the Hill. I'm very passionate about having any kind of intervention from the policy making from the side of neurology. Before going into the neurology, we are in this process. How can we do any kind of contribution? I'm interested on that, very passionate on that.
Yeah, so this is a great place where, we're going to send out the PowerPoint, but you can also just Google Neurology on the Hill. As I know you said that you're doing research, once you get into residency, you're able to be a part of those advocacy forums. Dr. Stroud, do you know a little bit more about is there any other way to be involved with Neurology on a Hill before you're a resident?
Mhm.
I don't think there's a way to be involved in neurology on the Hill, but there's a ton of ways to get involved with advocacy. And the easiest way is just to look right in your backyard, because there's a lot going on, I suspect, kind of where you are. Jesus, where are you again? Remind me where you're doing.
I am at University of Cincinnati doing
that's
research
right.
on Parkinson. Mhm.
Yep.
With Dr. Alberto SP. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you're in a great spot. There's a lot of you've got a good mentor, to think about how to get involved in that. In just about every neurology department, there's folks that do advocacy work, and those are folks who have gone through neurology on the Hill. They may have been through the Palatucci advocacy program as well. You can look those people up.
Yes.
And that would be a great way to identify some local mentors who are involved in advocacy. Here in North Carolina, I'm involved in the North Carolina Neurologic Society, and I actually spent all morning calling our General Assembly, House of Representatives and legislators about issues related to Medicaid expansion and talking about those sorts of things. So there's a lot of ways, I think, to get involved kind of right where you are. The AAN is a phenomenal place to do advocacy work. The AAN really advocates well for neurologists at large. At your stage, I think looking right where you are for those who are interested in some of that advocacy work and using some of the AAN programs to identify those local mentors may be the best first stop.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Dr. Stroud. Thank you.
Ariel may have some other thoughts.
Thank you.
You said everything I was going to say. So I have nothing. I thought that was beautifully stated. And yeah, just I think the AAN is great, but there's also a lot of work. And sometimes the most impactful things we can do is spend a morning calling our legislatures, and you don't have to, anyone can do that at any stage. And then right now, I think there is a lot of need, boots on the ground, right? So if there's a cause you're particularly passionate about, knocking on doors, mailing flyers, calling people on a list, and finding someone locally who is already connected and involved and can point you to the groups that are, because there's a lot of organization that goes into doing those kinds of projects. They always need more hands.
Fascinating. Thank you so much, Dr. Leons.
Yeah, I think that's just like another plug for going to meetings, making connections, networking, just every time there's an opportunity to try to take advantage of that. And going back to what Dr. Suarez said about Twitter, I actually find it very useful too. So, if you're not on Twitter, hop on Twitter and you'll start to learn more about neurology as a whole. You can follow various neurologists in like movement disorders, Parkinson's. I think it's a great way to keep on top of certainly the literature. Like it's a really fun way to keep on top of new articles, but there's probably a branch of Twitter that's also devoted to kind of more of this advocacy work too.
Thank you so much, Dr. Michelson.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Great insights.
Dr. Soares and Dr. Michelson, can I take the question that's in the chat?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But I did also want to shout out to Aaron, who's on the call, who's the starter of #NeuroTwitter Network. So there's some, Twitter legacies on the call right now. So
My co-resident.
So there's a question in the chat about opportunities for residents to be involved as trainee editors. And so I wanted to go over the different ways to be involved in the editorial process. So the first thing is to submit papers. Especially to the resident fellow section. We make a big effort to give you feedback. So even if your paper is not accepted for publication, we spend a little bit more time on those comments and making sure that every time you submit, it's a growing opportunity and a learning opportunity. And just the process of submitting a paper is going to teach you a lot about the editorial process. And the cool thing about the resident fellow section is we have very standardized templates for the types of papers you submit, and they range in everything all the way down to ePearls, which is 150 words, Dr. Stroud? I should know this. Very short. To teaching neuroimages and teaching video images, which are also short, all the way up to full clinical reasoning papers. So I think that's number one. Number two is you can sign up to be a reviewer. And you do that through the same portal that you submit your papers at. And you're going to mark that you're a resident. So we're going to know that you're a resident. And you're not going to be the only person reviewing the paper. So you don't need to worry that someone's publication holds the rest in your hands. And then you'll have the opportunity to read the reviews written by the other people who reviewed that paper, and you can learn from reading the other reviews. And there are lots of great non-neurology specific resources about reviewing, things like Publons, Publons, which even has an academy where you can learn about the review process. So then along those lines of being a reviewer, we do offer a mentored review program. We just started this cohort. So the next open call for mentees will be next spring. But if you're in the right age group and you're applying for the editorial board, I don't want to say all, most people who apply for the editorial board will be offered the opportunity to do the mentored review program in the fall. So that's another way, if you're passionate and you're interested, to be in the fall cohort. And there you'll be paired with an experienced mentor who will do guided mentored review of the review process, guided mentoring of the review process. And then lastly, kind of what Dr. Michelson was referring to with the resident and fellow section of neurology. So there is a resident and fellow board, and that's where, like Dr. Stroud, the name comes from. The board is for resident and fellows, the section is for everybody. Applications are open right now, and you need to be, Dr. Stroud, will you help me? I get confused. You need to be a PT.
Yeah, easiest way to think about it is you need 2 more years of residency training, regardless of what type of resident you are or where in the world you are. You need to have 2 years of residency training remaining as of July 1. And so you're on the board for 3 years. 2 of the years are as a resident, and 1 year is either as a fellow or in practice.
Oh, that's, yes, what he said. And so if that's where you are in your stage of training, I strongly encourage you to apply. It's an incredible opportunity. And members of the board have the opportunity to pitch and then work on an idea that's going to improve the resident fellow section of neurology. So a lot of the things that we've been talking about on this call were originally ideas from board members and came out of the incredible hard work by that team. And then as a board member, you also get a chance to sort of see that inside look at the review process. And you do a lot of reviewing and therefore get really good at it. So I think those are all of the last one I wanted to mention was that it can be a little overwhelming to review for your first time on your own. And so, because we're currently closed for applications for the mentored review program, you can also look around your home institution and ask a faculty member, hey, I'm interested in reviewing, but I'm not sure I know what to do. Can I help you with one of your reviews? And it is absolutely allowed for a faculty member to enlist the assistance and teach a student for a review that they've been requested to do. That's all. So I hope that answered your question.
That was a great answer. Let me add on a part 2. And Sharon, I'll take the neurology education side of your question. What Dr. Lyons-Warren stated was just perfect. And I hope you all go back and re-listen to that, because that was just great in terms of the ways to get involved and not only in the neurology journal and the resident fellow section, but just in scholarship and publication in general. So think more on that. But neurology education is a new journal. It's the newest of the neurology family of journals, and it just launched in April. There's a lot of excitement about this journal. This journal is going to focus on how do we educate in not just neurology, but neurological and neuroscience fields. It will publish original research articles on how to educate, how to train, novel curricula, and education research or education scholarship. And a lot of those are going to come from educators who are doing that work in education research. But there are 3 ways for trainees. That would be primarily residents, maybe some students, certainly fellows, to get involved. So one is we just released an announcement for a resident and fellow editorial board member, and we'll have a very small number of slots for a resident and fellow editorial board member. These will be very senior residents or fellows. Those who would not meet the criteria for the resident and fellow section, that eligibility starts a little bit earlier, but sort of senior residents in their last year of training or in fellowship for a 1-year editorial board position. And those would be people who are interested in education to come and kind of take a year and help review articles. The second way to get involved is in the blog. In Neurology Education, we're developing an active blog. And one of the things we're really interested in is the learner perspective, or listening to the learner. And a series within the blog will have short 500-word, non-peer-reviewed posts to the blog about what it's like to be a learner in the midst of COVID, or what it's like to be a learner in the kind of post Supreme Court decision around abortion, or what is it like to be a learner in the transition to the new normal with telehealth, and so a learner perspective on current training. And if you're interested in writing one of those types of blogs, primarily for residents, you can reach out to the Neurology Education Journal. I'll put the email in the chat and let us know what you'd like to do. We are also interested in trainees to review manuscripts and to provide us with that learner perspective on an educational intervention. That's going to be primarily for some of the more senior residents that have had some opportunity to review in all the ways that Dr. Lyons-Warren just said. But if you're interested in reviewing for neurology education, you can send us an email. And again, I'll put our email in the chat, and that would be an opportunity. But I think all the things Dr. Lyons-Warren mentioned are better ways to kind of initially get involved in that process. So great question, Sharon.
All right, any other questions? We have about 9 minutes left. All right. Looks like we don't have any more burning questions. So just thank you guys all so much for coming. Like I said, our emails are in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to talk to you. If we don't know the answers, it's likely that we know somebody who does. So we can get you connected with those people. The American Academy of Neurology is just such a welcoming institution, and we're really happy to help you guys get to where you want to be. So like I said, thank you guys so much for coming. And with that, I think we'll say goodnight. Any other last comments from some of our speakers, or?
Thank you so much for coming. This was such a treat. Great job, Dr. Suarez. And yeah, I think, if anyone's joined us today, you clearly are interested in neurology, so don't be shy. And I think all of us in neurology are really passionate and really welcoming people, which is one of the highlights of our field. So I think that's just like really a great thing about being here and being a part of this. So we really mean it when we say we're really looking to provide opportunities and help people, because we'll also learn in the process too. I think all of us are kind of being mentored and mentoring others. So yeah.
See you all in Boston.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Like Dr. Stout said, see you in Boston. Have a good night.